So I got something in the mail, and it's this. It's a plaque for 10 years as a Cisco CCIE. So it got me thinking. A lot has happened in the last 10 years, and I thought I would share some experiences that I have and come up with the top 10 things that I've learned in my 10 years as a CCIE. Hi, my name is Rich and welcome to the Rich Tech Guy channel. And this video is going to be for if you are starting out in computer networking, maybe working on a CCIE, or maybe you already have your CCIE. Regardless of your situation, I think you might find this video informative. So before I get into this and the 10 things that I've learned as a CCIE in my 10 years as being a CCIE, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button if you like that kind of content and you want to hear more. And are you subscribed to this channel? If not, why? The subscribe button's right there next to the like button. So you can go ahead and hit that too. All right. So also, before I get into this, if you want to understand or learn about my story of becoming a CCIE, I've actually made a video on that already. And I will link to that somewhere up above, maybe over there, I think. Maybe over there. I never know where it's going to appear. Anyways, I know it always appears in the same place. It's kind of weird through the camera lens. But go ahead and check that out if you're interested. I'll also link it in the description down below. So maybe you can watch this whole video and then click on that link. All right. Now let's get into 10 things I've learned as a CCIE. Item number 1. Getting a CCIE is not the end of the journey. In fact, it's really the beginning. So yes, the Cisco CCIE is the top of the Cisco certifications, and the path to get it is a long and difficult path. But once you obtain it, there's still more. And for those of you who've gotten your CCIE, I'm sure you remember the euphoria and relief when you got that notification, depending on when you got it, maybe an email, maybe through other means. Yeah, it was quite a relief. And for me, so when I took my lab exam on the third time, and that was the time that I passed it on, when I walked out at the end of the day, I was about 95% certain that I had passed it, that this was it, I had done it. Okay, now I just had to wait for the result. So nothing else to do. Went and had some dinner. There was a movie theater near the hotel I was staying at. Went and saw a movie. I still hadn't gotten the result back. And I was just trying to be like, okay, maybe in the morning I'll get it. But then it was about 1 a.m. I got the notification. I passed. And yeah, I was just ecstatic, just bouncing around and, oh my God, this is great. Yeah, I can't believe that. So yeah, I was in this new and energetic state. And of course, I had a flight to catch. I had to get home in the morning. So yeah, it took me a while to calm down from that. Actually, it was like around 2:30 in the morning when I calmed down and was finally able to start going to sleep. And by the way, at the time that I did my exam, San Jose, California was a testing center location. So that's where I was. And yeah, it was like 2:30 in the morning, and suddenly the room started rattling. There was an earthquake, because it's California. Of course, there's an earthquake. Yeah, and so at that point, I was like, you know what? Is the rattling going to get worse, or is it going to fade out? It faded out, and I was like, all right, that's fine. I'll just go to sleep now. Woke up the next morning, found out that over in Fremont, California, which is like about 12 miles or roughly 20 kilometers away from where I was, yeah, there was a 4.0 earthquake. So, you know what? Maybe that was just recognition of my achievement as getting a CCIE. So anyways, yeah, after I got home though, there was the sense of, okay, now what? I did all this work. I went through that whole process. I got that CCIE. Now what? Yeah, and the answer to that really came through my career. Okay, I was able to go into customer environments and introduce myself as a CCIE, and continue to keep it active and utilize that as a means for helping me to basically say, yes, I've got this. I understand this. To me, the CCIE is the only certification out there that requires you to truly prove that you know it, because you went into that lab, you spent 8 hours in there working with the equipment, and you have proven yourself. So it's something that you are then able to use as a means to help propel your career forwards. And that only comes, though, by maintaining it and keeping it active. Item number 2, you've been through the process. Be a mentor to those in the process. Okay, so you've gone through that process to get your CCIE. You've done the hard work. Congratulations. Now, it doesn't matter if you have just gotten your CCIE yesterday, or maybe you got it 10 years ago. Okay, there are going to be people around you that are interested in either starting computer networking, maybe just going for their first computer networking cert, a CCNA, or maybe they are going for the CCIE themselves. And when you were in that process, you most likely got coaching. Okay, I know I did. I was a guy that worked for Cisco. He was actually my main contact at Cisco on my job. He was a CCIE, and he gave me some great advice, some great coaching in terms of what to expect, and even some of his story about what he went through in his journey for a CCIE. So by the way, Dave, if you're out there watching this, thank you very much. But now you're the one with the CCIE. So there are going to be those around you who are trying to get theirs. Be that mentor. And as an example to that, about 4 years after I got my CCIE, I was managing a team of sales engineers. And one of these guys on the team wanted to get a CCIE for himself. So he went and he took the written exam and he passed it. And so as his manager, I needed to do whatever I could to help him out. So he did a lot of study time. Of course, I knew that was needed. I made sure he had that time available to him. And I was also able to get the company that we work for to cover his costs for taking the lab exam, and also for the travel to the lab exam site. So the other thing that I did was I talked to him about some of my experience, what to expect when going into that lab exam. And I of course didn't tell him exactly what I did on the exam and what questions were faced or that I had to deal with. But I told him more about what he might have to deal with from an experience standpoint. And for an example, and I will give this to any of you out there looking to get your CCIE. Okay, when it comes to the lab exam, time management is key. It's absolutely critical. Now, the lab exam has changed format since I did it 10 years ago, where back then I had an 8-hour configuration period. Now, these days you have like a 2-hour sort of theory or troubleshooting, trouble ticket type stage, and then you have a 6-hour configuration stage. So it's a little bit different now, but going back to my format that I went through, the 8 hours of configuration. The way I described that to him, and I will describe to you, is when I got the list of criteria that I needed to have completed by the end of the exam, I would refer to that as about 10 hours worth of work. Okay, I had 8 hours to do it, and I had, and in reality, I needed to get it done in 6 hours. Okay, so this is where time management becomes such key. And the reason why I needed to do it in 6 hours is so I could give myself 2 hours to go back through everything and make sure I did it correctly. All right, so there's the example, or one of the examples that I gave him. And now this guy, he's an extremely smart guy, and he did a lot of work putting in the time and the effort to study for that lab exam. And the other thing I brought up with him is doing that lab exam is tough. The first time failure rate is a 95% failure rate. I'm in that statistic. It took me 3 attempts to pass my lab exam. So I also said, hey, look, if you go into this and your first time you fail, don't be discouraged. It happens to almost everybody who passes, okay? So he took in his time, he studied and he worked at it. In fact, he took so much time that his 18-month period had lapsed and he had to go redo the written exam, which he did, and he passed. For those of you unaware, when you pass the written exam, you have 18 months to make your first attempt at the CCIE lab exam. Now, you have 3 years to pass it before you need to redo the written exam. But if you do not make your first attempt within 18 months of passing the written exam, you have to go retake the written exam in order to be able to do a lab. So his 18 months had passed. He hadn't taken the written exam. And so he retook, or he hadn't taken the lab exam. So he retook the written exam. And then he went on and he continued to study some more. And finally, he felt he was ready. He booked his exam. He traveled to the testing location, and he showed up on the day of his test, and he couldn't take the test. So there was a little situation that happened where this was during the pandemic, and the proctor, due to Cisco's rules around entering their facilities at that time, the proctor himself was not able to go in and actually enter the building. So he wasn't able to take the exam. Now, he got rebooked to take his exam again 2 days later. So he calls me up, he's telling me the story, and I just said, you know what? You just got 2 extra days of study time. So go back to your hotel, extend your time at the hotel, talk to the front desk, get your time staying there extended, and you've got some extra couple of days here. Go ahead and study. And that's exactly what he did. And so when the day then came, 2 days later, for him to take that exam, he went in there, and by the way, he was not in that first time failure rate statistic. He passed it on his first try. And I'm going to say this, okay? He absolutely did the work. That was his victory. That was not my victory. I was just standing by on the sidelines going, yeah, awesome, good job. Okay, he's the one who put in the work. He put in the study. He earned his CCIE. That was his victory. Okay, I felt it like my responsibility to do whatever was within my power to help him get to that point, and then he took himself across the finish line. Item number 3. Your technical skills got you the CCIE, but it's your soft skills that's really going to propel your career further. Okay, so yeah, you've got the CCIE. It's a great accomplishment. And when I was a manager, if I was interviewing for a position and somebody sent me a resume that had valid CCIE credentials on it, I wouldn't even question their technical abilities, okay? They've proven it, and I've touched on that on point 1, that the CCIE is the only known certification where you go into an actual lab environment and you take equipment and you get it working the way the criteria set forth before you requires, okay? So I'm not, if somebody hits me or comes to me with a CCIE on their resume, I'm not going to be asking them subnetting questions or things like that. No, if I am asking them a technical question, it's more going to be, here's the challenge you're facing. What would you do to resolve that? Just to kind of see what their problem-solving skills are, and maybe what technologies they might go to address that particular solution. Okay. The technical stuff from the core stuff, that's already a given when somebody has a CCIE, a valid CCIE. Because as a manager, people had sent me resumes where their CCIE credentials weren't valid. Either the CCIE had expired, or the number they gave me did not match to the name. And yes, there is a CCIE validation tool, so it can be checked. And anybody who sent me one of those resumes, instant disqualification, because there was a trust issue there. Now, if somebody had an expired CCIE and it was brought up, hey, I had a CCIE, it was valid from this year to this year, that's fine. They're honest about it, okay? So, but somebody who is misrepresenting having a CCIE, yeah, that's a major trust issue, and I'm not going to consider that resume any further. But at that point, somebody has a CCIE, valid CCIE, they've proven themselves. Now I'm interested in how are they going to interact with the rest of the team? How are they going to interact with customers? Okay, that's where the soft skills come into play. Or the fact that you know this, you've proven you know this technology. How are you going to be able to explain it to others around you? So that way, like in my area, I was managing a lot of sales engineers. So how are they going to explain it to the customer? So that way the customer is going to decide, yes, this is the solution I want. All right. So you need to be able to have interpersonal communications. You need to be able to have presentation skills in order to truly grow your career. And I get it. We're introverts. That's why we're in tech, right? At least like 90% of the people in tech, and it's how it feels like they're introverts. I'm an introvert too. If you meet me in person at, say, Cisco Live or somewhere out there, it's probably going to be an awkward meeting at first. And that's just me being an introvert. But you know what? You might be one too. So that just adds to the awkwardness. All right. So you're just going to have to work to overcome that. And if you can be able to have the interpersonal skills, if you can have the presentation skills, your career is going to go really far. Item number 4, keep your ego in check. Okay, so once you get that CCIE, you're going to find people around you. They might even introduce you as, oh, here's the smart guy. Here's the CCIE. He knows everything Cisco. Yeah, that's okay. Don't let it get to your head. And I'll say this, especially you're going to get it from salespeople. Now, I myself, most of my career has been in sales engineering. So that's a job where I listen to what the customer's needs are, what their challenges are, and I build out a solution that meets those challenges and maybe even help guide them as to why this particular thing over this, or talk to them. Sometimes I'll even talk to them about how you can configure something in order to meet that challenge. Maybe they already have the equipment, they just don't know its capabilities. So things like that. But then once I design a solution, I hand it off to a salesperson and they close the deal. Okay, so the thing there is when you're around salespeople, a lot of them will, and you're the tech guy, a lot of them are just going to introduce you as the smart guy. Okay, so, but like I said, don't let it get to your head. And I have actually seen situations where the people have gotten into the smartest guy in the room competition, and on point 7 I'll get into that. But it's sometimes and it seems to be a kind of a challenge within tech, is that people they just have a problem with saying I don't know. And many times, I guess, people in tech, they feel like it's a sort of a weakness to say, I don't know. All right. I've been in conversations with customers where I'm working through a solution and they hit me with a question, and my answer back, because I genuinely do not know the answer right off the top of my head, or I may not be able to look it up in like the next 20, 30 seconds, is I'll just flat out say, look, I don't know that, but I will go find that information and I will get that back to you. Okay, saying I don't know is not a weakness. Okay, what is a true weakness is not understanding that because you don't know something, that is an opportunity for you to learn it and grow personally, professionally, and even in your own technical knowledge and expertise. Now, I also got my sort of ego check in terms of getting my CCIE very early on, like within the first couple months of getting my CCIE. So I went to go attend a all-day training at Cisco's headquarter campus in San Jose, California. And I'm going there thinking, all right, I'm a CCIE, you know, this would be great. I can introduce myself as a CCIE. I walked into that room and I was the only guy in the room with just one CCIE. All right. Most of the people there had like 2, 3, or 4 CCIEs. So I was like, okay, you know, I did a great achievement. I got my CCIE, but there are people out there that they'll push it further. And do I want to join them? You know, that's kind of, for anybody out there, that's kind of that personal question of, you know, you've been through that process, you know what it takes. Do you want to do it again? And I'll touch on that on a later point too. Item number 5. The CCIE is an expert level certification, but it doesn't mean you know everything Cisco. The way I put it in terms of the CCIE is, I don't necessarily know everything Cisco, but I know where to get the information. So when you're getting your CCIE and you're studying and you're preparing for the lab exam, you're going to spend a lot of time on Cisco's support website looking through Cisco documentation. In fact, when you're working towards your CCIE, Cisco docs are your friend. Okay, they're your big friend. And I'll even point this out. When you are getting your CCIE in the lab exam, you actually have access to the Cisco documentation website. Okay, now the way I would put it is you have access through a 56K dial-up modem because the connection is extremely slow, but you do have access. So you are going to, and going into the exam, you need to, if there's something that you feel like you're going to need to reference, know how to get to it and how to get to it quickly, because it's a slow connection and time management is a thing. So, but the thing is, after that, when you have your CCIE, again, you're not going to know everything Cisco. In fact, there are multiple CCIE tracks. So, and even within your track, yes, you're going to be very good at that track, but you're still probably not going to be 100%, particularly when something new comes out. So what you will have is the knowledge of how to go through Cisco docs and how to get information out of Cisco docs. And you can use that to make it look like you can configure just about anything Cisco. So next is item number 6. Don't forget the basics. You know, this is something that I've seen as people move up through skill levels or maybe even up into higher level certifications, is that they may try to over troubleshoot a problem. Wherein maybe you have a computer that's having trouble connecting, and so somebody with a high certification level might start digging through logs on a router, checking the gateway, maybe trying to watch packets across the network, or possibly think, oh, this is a subnet or a spanning tree issue, and that they're trying to troubleshoot that, when all it really works out is, and I kind of slipped up there, is that, yeah, the subnet mask was configured incorrectly on the problem computer. Okay, so don't forget the basics. Now, like when I'm troubleshooting, I always start with, okay, what is the observed problem? And let's begin from there. All right. What system or systems are experiencing the issue? So maybe it's an issue with connecting. Okay, is it one system that's having the problem, or are there multiple systems? Okay, if it's one system, I'm going to start with that system. That's likely where my problem is. And if I can't find the problem on that system, then I start moving up the wire. What device is it connected to? How is it configured? How is the interface on that device configured? And then I start working my way into higher processes. Maybe it's multiple systems having the connection issue. Okay, so what is the point where all of those systems come together? Is there a single device where all of those connect into? Maybe start there. Maybe see if there's some misconfiguration there, or then kind of move on up through the towards perhaps maybe your gateway system. But again, it's always start with the observed problem and begin to work your way from there. Or another thing you can do is use the OSI model as your troubleshooting tool, okay? One way you could go about doing that is maybe start with layer 1, the physical layer, and work your way up the OSI model. Or perhaps you're experiencing that you can see from what's happening that this is clearly a layer 3 issue, and that's where you want to start with. But then if you don't see any problem at layer 3 of the OSI model, based off your troubleshooting, make a decision. Do I move up? Do I move down? And move across the different layers of the OSI model. So as an example of what I've gone through, this was actually a recent situation at work where I had a bunch of computers on the network that were getting, they were DHCP client computers, and they were getting the wrong IP address and subnet information. Now, the place that I work at is very cybersecurity focused, and so it could be DHCP snooping issue or something like that. But when I was looking at the IP addresses that was being assigned to them, I recognized the subnet that was being handed out, and I realized that was one of our legitimate DHCP servers. So I was like, okay, let's take a look at what's going on there. I basically walked into the data center. I got onto a console session with the switch that DHCP server was connected to, and started taking a look. Now I pulled up the list of the interfaces and what VLANs each interface is supposed to be configured on, and sure enough, the interface that DHCP server was supposed to be on, it was down, like completely offline. It was even as if no cable, literally link not connected. There was no cable on it. Now, you can go around to the backside of the switch and say, hey, is there a dangling cable? No, there wasn't. So next thing, fortunately in this case, the switch was a Cisco switch. The DHCP server was also on a Cisco device. And so real easy command, show CDP neighbor. All right, so very quickly, I found the DHCP server device, and I realized that it was on a interface that was on a different VLAN. And that was the VLAN of the devices that were getting the erroneous IP addresses assigned to them. So basically, at this point, it's like, okay, somebody who's working in the data center there was maybe working on that switch, disconnected it, and when they went to reconnect it, put it back into the wrong interface. So I pulled the cable out of the interface it was in, I plugged it into the correct one, issue was resolved. Simple layer 1 issue, okay? So just physical connection issue resolved within a couple of minutes, all right? So that's just an example of, instead of thinking, oh, maybe there's some VLAN hopping attack going on or some DHCP spoofing attack. No, it was just layer 1, physical layer. Item number 7, you are not always going to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, in many ways, it's better if you're not. Okay, so the way I put it is, if you are the smartest person in the room, one of two things is happening and you need to figure out which one it is very fast. Okay, the first possibility is you are there to teach the other people in the room. All right. Now, if it's not that, the other possibility is you're in the wrong room. Okay. Every one of us has different experiences, and we can all learn from each other's experiences. Now, this can be true in just life in general, but it's also true in tech. All right. So you may be really good at a particular area of Cisco technology, even within your own CCIE track. But maybe you have a coworker who's really good at something else. So you can always learn from that coworker. They can learn from you. And being able to truly grow in your career is when you recognize that every interaction you have with another person is a learning opportunity. Number 8, keep your CCIE current. So you've gone through all that trouble to get your CCIE. Don't let it lapse on you. Don't throw it away. And now, back when I first got it, the CCIE was valid for 2 years, and then you had kind of like this probationary year where you could continue to where you would be able to renew your CCIE. That's changed. Now you have 3 years for a CCIE term, and if you don't renew it by the end of those 3 years, it's gone. You want to get your CCIE back, you're going to have to go take a lab exam again. Okay, so the other thing too is back when I first renewed my CCIE, okay, I did it by retaking the written exam, and the process has since changed to where now, if you take the written exam, if you want to go the exam route to renew your CCIE, you effectively have to do 2 exams. You have to do a core exam and a concentration exam in order to renew your CCIE through the exam path. But the other thing that has happened since I first got my CCIE, and every time I have renewed my CCIE since that first renewal, has been through continuing education credits. And Cisco has made this so easy for us. In fact, I've even done a video about renewing your certifications, including the CCIE, and I even in that video renewed my CCIE through continuing education credits. I'll link to that up above or in the description down below, actually, and in the description down below. So one of the things I'll even comment on is renewing through continuing education credits has actually gotten easier since I did that video. When I did that video, I had already done the online coursework, and I had to fill out a form online to submit to get those education credits. The form still exists for certain other means of getting continuing education credits, but if you're doing it through online learning, like through Cisco U, in that case, as soon as you complete that course, those credits automatically go into your CCIE accrual, and you don't even have to fill out any form. So it's gotten a lot easier. And then, of course, once you have renewed your CCIE for 10 years, like I have now, now you become eligible for emeritus status, where you can actually just make a payment to keep your CCIE in. I always say emeritus, or maybe it's emeritus. Anyways, emeritus status, emeritus, however you want to pronounce it. Tomato, tomato. I'm American. Maybe if you're British, you might pronounce it the other way. But anyways, however you want to pronounce that. If your career has taken you on a path where you are no longer really focused on the technology, but you want to keep your CCIE in some sort of a quote, semi-active state, yeah, emeritus. And then if you have kept your CCIE active, either as active or in emeritus status for 20 years, then you will become a lifetime CCIE member, and you won't have to worry about it anymore after that. Item number 9, understand the CCIE itch. Or at least that's what I call it. Maybe it's an official term. But what is the CCIE itch? Well, I'll put it this way. You've gotten your CCIE, okay? You've gone through the entire process, and you know what? The journey, in a way, it kind of sucked, right? You spent a lot of late nights studying. You missed certain milestones maybe with your family. You missed out on big family events. You put things in your life on hold for whatever, a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long it took you to get that CCIE. All right. Why would you want to go do that again? Well, welcome to the CCIE itch. Okay. You know, there are some people out there that I've met that it almost feels like they've treated their CCIEs like Pokemon. Got to catch them all. Okay. So, and to those people, I almost want to ask, are you a masochist? Like, really? You want to put yourself through that torture over and over again? But yeah, it's there. It's the CCIE itch. And and honestly, if I've met somebody who has more than 3 CCIEs, most likely they're working for a training company, so it's almost like their job to get CCIEs. But to people who have like 2, 3, 4 CCIEs, these people who go through this, they are incredibly smart individuals. But at a certain point, it's like, really, do you want to do that again? But also, I understand too. So my CCIE is in data center. I think it even says it on my shirt right here. So, but now my career primarily is in cybersecurity. And I have started to get that CCIE itch where I have that feeling I want to get the CCIE security. Okay, I'm actually studying for it. Will I actually go through all the way and actually do it? Time will tell. But yeah, the CCIE itch is there. It's real, and you need to understand it. Item number 10. Technology changes fast, so you need to keep up with it. Now, this goes hand in hand with keeping your CCIE current, but that's just the fact of the matter of how things are. When we choose a career in technology, we choose a career of continuously learning because we have to keep up with the pace of technology and the change of technology. And that's one of the reasons why I also sign off all my videos where I say keep learning, keep improving, keep studying. For those very few of you who actually stick around to the absolute end of my video. But as an example, when I did my CCIE and I was in the lab, I had to configure stuff around Fabric Path, okay? At the time I did it, Fabric Path was a dying technology. And Fabric Path at this point, it is dead. VXLAN killed it, okay? As much as I absolutely loved Fabric Path, I really loved the innovation behind it and how it worked to create a sort of multi-redundant layer 2 networking. Yeah, VXLAN killed it. And so there aren't any videos about Fabric Path on my channel, but there are videos about VXLAN, and I can link to that up above and in the description below. But yeah, you got to keep up with it. And now we're in this time of AI, where AI is going to rapidly accelerate the pace of change for technology. So keep your CCIE current and keep up with the technology. Did I say 10 things? Guess what? Here's a bonus item. Understand work-life balance. Okay? Burnout is real. And we actually saw this during the pandemic time where some of the top tech people in the industry that they just were like, you know what, screw this, because they were just being relied on too much to their organizations. And I'm not talking about I need to go take a month off. So some of these people, they were like, no, I'm done with technology. I'm buying some land in Virginia and going to go try to be a blueberry farmer. Okay, this is real. And so you need to understand work-life balance and understand your company's time off from work policy. Utilize it to its fullest extent. Yes, as you grow in your career, you're going to have more responsibilities. Make sure those are fulfilled, but also spend time with your family. Take time for yourself. Find a hobby that interests you. Actually, you'd be surprised at the number of people in tech who are either doing home brewed beer, homegrown foods, music. So yeah, there's all sorts of hobbies out there and some of them are quite commonly done in technology. But just think of it as a way to reboot your mind while you're away from tech. So yeah, it's kind of surprising in some ways that it's been 10 years since I got my CCIE, and in the 10 years, it's kind of felt like yesterday in some ways. And other times it felt like a lifetime ago. But I absolutely plan on keeping it active, either in full active status or in emeritus status for the next 10 years, so I can become one of those lifetime CCIEers. Have you gotten your CCIE? And if so, do you agree with the advice that I've given in here? If so, comment down below, or maybe you've got some other advice you maybe want to give. Go ahead and comment about that. And if you're on your path to the CCIE, why don't you go ahead and comment about where you're at and maybe if anything in particular is challenging you right now. So also, you've made it to the end of this video, and go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, go ahead and hit subscribe as well. And if you are on your path, I will go ahead and link to some learning resources below. They are going to be affiliate links. So do with that information what you will. But as always, keep learning, keep studying, keep improving, and I will see you in the next video.